Welcome back to the John Fredericks Radio Show. This is Mike Rubio, guest hosting for the Godzilla The Truth. Joining us right now is Marc, Director of Strategic Communications. Marc, thank you so much for joining me.
No, it's great to be with you.
I have exciting news for you. Something that just posted on HollywoodReporter.com at 8:39, so recent. NBC and MSNBC's broadcast for the 9th debate had 20 million people tune in. So 20 million people watched the biggest train wreck on television. I mean, is there any better news than that?
No, every time they open up their mouths and take the stage, President Trump just keeps winning. And it was no different there in Las Vegas. It's great to see that so many people got to see what can really just be described, as a circus. It was like a bunch of kids arguing in the back seat while you're going to Disney or something.
Well, it's kind of amazing. I mean, the primary debate between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton had 7.7 million people tune in. So obviously people want to know what these candidates have to say. Unfortunately, what they have to say is nothing nice. I mean, they don't respect the golden rule towards one another. That's very obvious. But it's highly entertaining.
It was. I mean, and the big takeaway I took from this is that despite the fact that Mike Bloomberg has billions of dollars, that's still not enough to buy a clue.
No.
Because he got completely outclassed and shown that he wasn't even ready for the JV team there in that debate the other night.
And the way that I think that this benefits the president and your campaign, especially in regards to Mike Bloomberg, is he's condescending, right? His comments on farmers, his comments on TurboTax, I mean, way to disparage every Trump voter and or unswayed or independent voter out there. He just kind of ritualistically makes them all feel bad about themselves, which is not what you're supposed to do. The one other thing I noticed, and this is more just being someone who consumes a lot of media, Mike Bloomberg's out there dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into TV ads that essentially have Barack Obama narrating a Mike Bloomberg ad. But maybe smart, maybe not. But what he's not doing is what the president did in 2016 and what he's doing in 2020. The president didn't spend any money in 2016, not nearly as much as Hillary Clinton, and in the primaries, hardly any. And he went out there and he met people. Thousands of people every day, tens of thousands of people every week. And he went out there and he talked and he talked and he talked and he went on interview after interview after interview. Mike Bloomberg's hiding behind millions and millions of dollars worth of ads. And then when he finally opens up his mouth, he should have never done it in the first place. He should have not shown up to that debate.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, I'm in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where I gave a Lincoln Day speech last night, and to about 250 people, which is still more than most of the Democrats can attract.
Yeah.
But they're still talking about a visit the president paid there during the 2016 election, which had like 6,000 or 7,000 people in their convention center and it's still resonating years later. They're hoping, obviously, he comes back, and we're going to be competing in Pennsylvania. But when you look at what the president's doing, whether it's tens of thousands of people in Arizona, in Colorado Springs, today they're already lined up in Las Vegas. Everywhere he goes, people are coming out. And when you look at the data that Brad Parscale is releasing afterwards, it's 20 to 25% Democrat. It's 20 to 25% of people who didn't vote in 2016. These are the margin makers. These are the difference makers in this election, whether it's in targeted states, whether it's in ruby red states, or as the president showed last week or 2 weeks ago in New Jersey, where he got 180,000 people wanting the tickets in deep blue New Jersey. Mm-hmm. He's bringing new people to this party.
And I've been to Wildwood, by the way. There's one bridge in, one bridge out. So 180,000 people. Good on you, because that's, not an easy place to get 180,000 people to.
No, and it really is remarkable. And I think what makes it even easier is because of who we're going to be facing. I mean, right now you've got Bernie Sanders who's leading the pack, and that makes it so much easier. I believe every state in the union right now is in play for President Trump, with the exception probably of the People's Republic of California that like socialists and communists. Yep. But the rest of the nation is going to say no.
We're looking at a Mondale situation. I wanted to talk to you about what I think is an incredible strategy that the Trump campaign has implemented, and that's going after large swaths of voters at one time. And the Daytona 500 is a perfect example of that. The other one is your Super Bowl ad. So if you can, you don't have to obviously break down too much or give us too much of the weeds, but what's the strategy behind the Daytona 500? I think it was brilliant. The Super Bowl ad, just walk us through that, because that's the kind of stuff that's resonating. He's a man of the people, so have at it.
Well, yeah, he is absolutely that. He is a man of the people, but the strategy is very simple. Too many people in Washington, D.C., and political operatives like myself, we get into the bubble where everything is all about what was on the cable news or what's on the network evening news, and the vast majority of the people don't care. They're not watching that kind of stuff. They don't sit there and hang on every word. So when he has the opportunity to reach out and communicate, whether it be through the Super Bowl, whether it be through the Daytona 500, which is what regular Americans are watching and tuning into, we have a chance to communicate to an audience that hasn't already made up its mind. They're not sitting there hanging on every political word that comes out of D.C. They're just living their lives. So our ability to go out there and communicate that is something that is unmatched by really anybody else.
Exactly. And the Daytona 500, I think, is a perfect example of kind of that liberal media skew that is so unfair to President Trump. He's not the first president to go. President George W. Bush went in 2004, did essentially the same thing. You would not be able to know that based on reading the media. It's essentially like one line that you have to find in each story to say that, because they kind of go out of their way to be scornful and disdainful as President Trump reaches out to his voters, right? They love to talk about the World Series where the president showed up in Washington, D.C., which is essentially, the same as California. But when he goes to Florida and he goes to Daytona, they love him, chant his name, they scream his name, and he rides the beast around the track. I mean, this is all just smart politicking, and it's politicking that's been done before. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's going out and talking to people and reaching people. Why is that such a bad thing?
Well, because the Democrats, they can't match it. They don't have anything like that they can do. And so when this president, and when they're forced to get out of their bubble and they see that the vast majority of the American people support this president, like what he's doing in what they would consider to be the flyover country or flyover voters, that bothers them because they want to be able to control that narrative, and the president is just going to keep bursting their bubble every time he leaves, and he's doing it in places that they're not expecting it. Whether it's in Colorado, which is going to be in play, which is where it's in Nevada today, where it's definitely going to be a state that is in play. Mm-hmm. He's breaking all of their narratives. He's breaking their mold, and they don't know really what to do with it.
Well, that's an excellent point. And I think what you've done so far in Iowa and New Hampshire, and I believe you're doing it in Nevada and South Carolina upcoming, is one, you're counter-programming. So the Democrats are in disarray, and when they're not in disarray, they're just mean. And they're not trying to bring in people into their tent. But what y'all are doing is deploying these massive surrogate teams. I mean, what was it in Iowa? 80 people? Yes. New Hampshire, 70 people? So, I mean, is that going to continue on? Because what an amazing thing that you're doing. And the turnout that the unopposed president, because Bill Weld is not really a competition, what he's getting numbers-wise is so far surpassing any sitting president. I mean, it's really quite a testament to your campaign.
Well, and it's amazing. It's amazing because of the supporters. I mean, they're lining up, whether it's to go to a rally or go to cast a vote in a primary that's already been decided. And when this president can more than double the number of votes that Barack Obama got, that George W. Bush got, he doubled the number of votes that Ronald Reagan got in New Hampshire in 1984. And when it comes to the strategy, it is twofold. One, obviously, it's sending the message that about the president, activating those voters, but it's also sending a message to the Democrats that we're not going anywhere, and it's giving our campaign a chance to stretch our legs a little bit and remind folks that whoever comes out of that mess over there, you still get to get into the ring with Donald Trump and this campaign behind him, and that is not going to be a pleasant experience for you.
No, you have one of the most massive war chests going. You have a ground game that is unparalleled. You are seamlessly working between the RNC, the White House, and the campaign. Everyone's singing off the same song sheet. You have more achievements to tout than any president in recent history. I mean, it's a good time to be working at the Trump campaign, right?
Well, it is, but I'll tell you, the president was talking to me last week when he came by the campaign and visited with some of our young staffers, and he's like, look, we've got to keep acting like we're 1 point down. So I understand the polls are showing great momentum. They're showing, that the president's likely to be reelected, and that's the way you lose. We've got to continue to fight we're 1 point down. We're going to continue to flip states on the map from Democrats to Republicans. It's going to happen, but we've actually got to get out there and do it. So whether you are in a ruby red state or a ruby red part of a state, as I was here in Altoona last night, which is very Republican, I'm like, look, your job is to run up the score.
Right.
Because don't trust what the Democrats in Philadelphia will do to steal, cheat, and manufacture votes in this election. They will do everything that they always do. So your job is to run up the score so we have the greatest chance possible of overcoming their shenanigans and winning this state again.
Well, with 250 people turning out for you in Altoona, you could be on the Democratic debate stage. You're drawing as big crowds as Amy Klobuchar and Pete.
Let's not wish that.
Well, Marc, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. Is there anything that people can do to get involved? Any website? Can they follow you on Twitter? Just sell us for a second.
You can follow me at Marc with a C _Lotter, LOTTER on Twitter. But the best thing everyone can do is text the word Trump to 88022. That gets you into our system, so you get updates. You know when the president's coming your way. You'll get surveys. You'll get all kinds of things to make sure that we know what you're thinking and how we can best communicate with you.
Well, Marc, thank you so much. 88022?
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks again. Marc Lotter, Director of Strategic Communications, Donald J. Trump for President.